right, well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are excited to announce our joint budget targets today between the House and the Senate. This really represents, we think, the priorities that Minnesotans care about. Obviously, you're going to see in here that tax relief, education, transportation are big priorities for us, and we're excited about the numbers that we're putting forth today. We got here, of course, by the governor issuing a letter a little more than a month ago asking us to have joint targets by today. We had hoped, obviously, that he would be involved in that process, but we nonetheless wanted to stick to that deadline and have joint targets out today. We've allowed about 5 weeks extra to get our work done here or 3 weeks extra, about 5 weeks total, to get our work done at the end of session. And we've envisioned all along a more transparent and open process. So we're on schedule, we're ahead of schedule, I should say, and we're excited about these numbers. We think that this represents really where Minnesotans would expect us to be at. Top priorities for us, of course, again, tax relief. We want to make sure that we put some money back in the pockets of Minnesotans. We've had record surpluses for some time now, and it's time that Minnesotans share in the prosperity that they've created for the state. We also are prioritizing transportation and using some general fund dollars to pay for what Minnesotans expect us to, our road and bridge infrastructure. So you'll see that reflected here, and many other areas, education and many others. So I'll turn it over to Senator Gazelka, and then we'll talk a little more about the numbers and take some questions. Yeah, Senator.
Good morning. Even our logo has changed a little bit, if you've seen that. We merged the two. The House and Senate is now advancing the Minnesota way. And that just is a reflection of how the House and Senate have come together and are showing you what we can do as we work together. We did want this to be the day that we set our three-way targets. That was something that the governor had put out, and we all agreed on. This was a good day. Doing it this far ahead gives us ample time to do the things that we need to do. And so the House and Senate came together and said, we are here, we're ready. And that was a request that the governor had from us, and we got that in a second step that we had to do. But now we're going to ask the governor that he come to us and have a three-way target by next Thursday. The Speaker and I are going to meet with the governor on a regular basis starting Monday. We would meet earlier if we wanted to, but we want that to happen. By Monday, we expect that the committees are going to be wrapped up and he's going to be able to see the policy language. But here you see the targets. We're very serious about this opportunity that we have. If we wait till the very end, that often happens, almost always that happens. It just means that everything gets crammed in. A lot of things are done with very few legislators being involved. And we don't want that. We want everybody engaged in this process. We want it to be transparent. We've made that case every step of the way, and here's the next step of this two-step process. With that, too, we've got both of the chairs of finance are here. We wanted them to be available to answer any detailed questions about any of the issues that are before us today.
Well, let's start with, can we talk about taxes? What's the actual tax cut number?
The actual tax cut number is $1,150,000,000. So, and it's right here on the bottom. So, yeah, the taxes and aid number that's in here, this is other stuff. This is, your property tax refunds, your renters refunds, LGA, that kind of stuff.
Mr. Chairman, what do you anticipate? I understand the details get worked out in conference committee, but in broad terms, where do you expect this to be? Is the Social Security relief going to be in there? Is the business tax relief going to be in there?
Well, of course, it gets worked out in the committee, but I think I should defer to the Speaker or Majority Leader on that question.
Well, we've said all along a number of the issues that we want to make sure that we are taking care of in our tax relief. Ag property tax relief for the farmer, small business tax relief, Social Security income exemption, student loan relief. I mean, there's a number of areas. The Senate hopes that we haven't wrapped this up yet, that we still get that income tax reduction, which would affect all of Minnesota. So, but all of those things should be in there when you look at a $1.1 billion plus tax bill. But it'll be very similar. Both House and Senate had many of the same things in there. And I don't think it'll be difficult in the end for us to have that. And we're going to fight for it. We think it's a good tax bill. We hope that the governor can be convinced of that, just like our transportation bill, just like our education bill. But those are some of the key things that'll be in there.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Leader. Mr. Speaker, you expect the same rough mix in terms of bullet points and
Well, you know, this hasn't necessarily been an easy task. Our bills didn't start in the same place. We had not only different target numbers, but we had somewhat different priorities. I think we were all prioritizing Minnesotans, but maybe in a slightly different way. So obviously our chairs have worked hard to start working in the direction of coming together. They're going to do some more of that work over the weekend, and I think likely on Monday we're going to see what those final products and final results of our conference committees look like, and that's what the governor asked for. So at that point we'll engage the governor, ask the governor to engage with us in setting joint targets so that we can, joint targets between the legislature and the governor so that we can get this wrapped up on time and really representing, I think, all of our priorities.
You expect the Social Security and the ag and the business in there?
You know, we would like to see that. Obviously, we're going to advocate for those things. We think that's important. We took maybe a little different approach where the Senate said, let's give some tax relief to every single person. We targeted areas where we thought we were most kind of out of touch with what the rest of the country was at, areas that made us most uncompetitive. For instance, we're one of only 7 states that taxes Social Security income. We believe that seniors shouldn't be taxed on that income, so we want to make sure that we deal with that. We were lucky enough in the last session to get the governor to sign a bill to exempt military retiree benefits. We think that all seniors that collect Social Security should have some benefit. So we'd like to move in that direction, and our bill does that. So, and there's a lot of other areas, but we did have some things that were similar. We had some property tax relief for farmers. We had some property tax relief for small businesses. There are some things that I think we share as common priorities that we think will definitely help grow a stronger economy in the state of Minnesota, which ultimately will help all Minnesotans, but also should bring revenue into our state budget in the future and put us in a more stable budget position moving forward.
Can you break down which areas moved toward the House position and which areas moved to the Senate position?
I think as you look at the numbers, you're going to see that a lot of them are really almost at the middle point. We couldn't do exactly the middle point on everything because it didn't balance, but at the end of the day, things are pretty close to the middle point. On tax relief, we're probably just above the middle point. Oh yeah, do you want to go through them,
Sure.
Senator? Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I do want to just say that I think it's, back to the tax bill, it's very important to send a strong signal to the governor that we do feel that tax relief is very important. His tax bill last year was a little over $500 million. And so to us, tax relief is very important. The midpoint, we hit very strongly between the House and the Senate for taxes. Transportation, we went down closer to the,
We were at the actual midpoint.
exactly, we are
That
at
is
the
exactly
midpoint, I'm sorry about that. Somebody else should be doing this. We took the Senate's position in E12, we went a little bit higher on the HHS, and midpoint for everything else, for higher ed, ag, jobs, state government was a midpoint, judiciary was a midpoint, no debt service.
Both actually went up on HHS.
No,
We
actually,
went, the Senate went up, the House went down.
What about
The
the
House,
program
the Senate was 335, the House was 599, or 600.
Does this involve tapping the healthcare access fund to make?
we're not tapping the healthcare access
We're not,
fund.
With respect to public safety, the target was 50 million for the Senate, I think 105 for the House. So do you know what the House gains or loses and what the Senate gains in that?
Well, I think, when you're looking at these numbers, what we do is we're not so focused on what is that magical number compared to base. We do our budget the way we think most families do it. The Minnesota way of looking at how much money did we spend last year, how much are we looking at spending this year. So when you look on here, for example, at public safety, it says that's really close. We're going up $87 million last biennium or last two biennium over this, last biennium over this biennium. The actual base number is $85 million. We agreed right in the middle there between the House and Senate. In the case of higher ed, for example, the base number changes $125 million. It only shows up at $113 million on here because it's a $113 million increase from the last biennium to this biennium. But we met in the middle between the Senate $100 million number and the House $149.5 million. I think to answer Rachel's question earlier, the only three where we didn't meet right in the middle of the House and Senate is we took the Senate's position on E12 education of $300 million. We're having a little bit more in budget savings in HHS than the midpoint between the House and Senate. And then the other one was in the tax cut area, the tax cuts are about $25 million more than the midpoint.
So the midpoint between the two of you is much different than the midpoint between either of you and the governor. How hard is it going to be to find that sweet spot as this negotiation reaches its next phase?
So you don't think the governor will sign?
We think
Yeah.
these are good targets.
Yeah, first of all, without a doubt, we're going to fight for each of these targets. We want the governor to engage, and he's going to push back, without a doubt. We had breakfast with the governor, the speaker, and I, and some of the leadership teams about how we get to a final end conclusion. Some of the numbers, particularly related to HHS, they don't necessarily want to give us the numbers that we believe are there in savings, and we're going to fight for those. And we're going to push back with Myron Franz, the commissioner of MMB, and say, we want you to take a look at these and make sure that we are getting an accurate number, because some of them we don't think so based on earlier reports. And so that's part of the process that we have to go through now. We're going to fight for what we believe in, and so is the governor. I mean, he rightly said that we have real and honest differences between us that we have to figure out how we're going to work out. That's why we wanted to do this so early. That's why we really wanted three-way targets today and not two-way. But by doing it today, we still have time for him to come and negotiate with us those. And we talked about some of the issues that are harder and some that are easier. I think we all agreed that HHS, K-12, taxes, bonding, and state government are some of the more tricky issues. Some of the other issues, let's get them done early. I mean, if we can get things off of the table, it means the final negotiations in the end are much easier. Well, a little easier at any rate, because we've taken away some of the things that just take part of your thinking off the table. We got them done. And so I think the governor is open to that. He talked about a green light for transportation and legacy. Once we get all the targets three-way, then those things become much easier to do.
What about the one target that has parentheses around it, the decrease? Can we talk about that? We have a budget surplus and state government gets cut. Why?
Well, that is actually a little bit misleading. That decrease includes $328 million of premium relief that we passed earlier this year. That actually was effective as of the last biennium. So when you look at that $515 million, that you really got to take $328 million out of that to look at what the real decrease is. Well, in terms of the rest, we feel that there are areas of state government where there can be some savings, where we don't need to spend as much money. And so we're looking at not spending as much money in the jobs and economic development area, for example, as we spent the last 2 years. You know, things are going real well in Minnesota in economic development. If things were tough, probably we need to spend more money on the Minnesota Investment Fund and other things, other funds we use to try to spur business development. But things are going well. Unemployment's below 4%. Does it really make sense for us to be spending a lot of additional money in that area? And similarly, within the state government finance area, we think there are some savings to be had in that area as well. So, you know, we're not of the belief that government in every area needs to continually grow, and those are a couple areas where we think there are some savings.
The Chief Justice made an unusual appearance before a conference committee recently, and the governor a week ago specifically targeted her budget as something he really wanted to emphasize, make sure that that was fulfilled. Is there any movement on the judiciary budget in that direction?
Well, we have an $85 million increase in the target for judiciary. What are we, $87 million, I think, above spending for the last biennium. So we are spending more money in that area.
How close to their $51 million request?
Well, it depends on how the conference committee wants to sort it out.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, along the line of state government again, if we can get back to that, because the governor has repeatedly said no across-the-board cuts, and I know you all are aware of that. I understand, is this a next step of the process, or do you have some idea of how you're going to ease his concern about no across the board and maybe reaching a position that he can sign?
Well, again, that's really a matter for the conference committees, but I think there were good ideas on both the House and Senate side. Both the House and Senate recommended a negative target, a reduction in spending in that area. And I think both sides have some ideas on where we can save money, and The governor, of course, we will be talking to him, we'll be negotiating with him, but we'll be bringing forward our ideas on how we think we can save some money in government.
Is it reasonable to say that you will likely go with specific targeted reductions in areas rather than a more general across-the-board approach?
Well, I think that we're sort of just by the process, we're required to have specifics. I mean, as you put together the bill, it'll say, you know, Department of Management and Budget, Department of Revenue, et cetera, et cetera. You've got to have a specific amount of spending for each of those, and so you will see where we think we can save money and where we think we can't.
What size bonding bill does this accommodate, and is there any money kind of left as a cushion in case things change?
We have been sticking with the forecast amount for a bonding bill, which allows for an $800 million bonding bill this year and an $800 million bonding bill next year. We don't really have our bonding bill as part of this proposal. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe think that we could get by with even less, but that's what the forecast has it at and what the assumption is.
And any kind of
The
cushion?
timing of the release of that bonding bill?
I'll turn that over to the speaker.
You will see a House bonding bill next week, so likely early in the week.
Would the bonding bill include $200 million for transportation like it did last year, do you
It
think?
will.
So.
And the bonding bill, I think that you see introduced will be a smaller bonding bill, but it will be, and I want to remind folks, this isn't typically a bonding year, but we do understand that we did not successfully get a bonding bill on the governor's desk last year, and that got held up over Southwest Light Rail, as you all know, unfortunately. And that would have been the largest bonding bill in state history. It passed out of the House. I think it was on its way to pass out of the Senate and got held up over there. But I think the bonding bill that you see will be a little bit smaller this year with an intent of coming back. And I think we're doing that specifically to respect the process. We have bonding committee members that typically travel around the state over the interim and look at these projects and make sure that they represent the priorities that the committee supports. And that's an important process. So we're not going to just throw a bill together that funds a bunch of stuff that the committee hasn't really looked at. So I think you'll see this as being an infrastructure-heavy bill, kind of a first-year, needed projects that are timely, that need to get done this year, and then we'll come back next year for another bonding bill.
So in theory, these items will all be sites they've already visited in the past?
I can't guarantee that, but I think so. And I know that at least they will be, I think, projects that the committee will be comfortable with.
Aside from all the freshmen who haven't toured
Right.
bonding
Yeah, right.
sites.
What's the bottom line spending on this?
Well, the bottom line spending, the $372 million of transportation money is money that is going to be, and I guess the exact amount is again, to be decided on conference committee. That's going to be dedicated funding long-term to transportation. So when you add up all the general fund money, we're in the range of about $44.8 billion.
Tax relief.
Which does not include
tax relief as spending, right?
That does not include the $1,150 million of tax relief.
So you're talking about a $46 billion budget here.
No, I said 44.8. We're talking about a 45-ish, a little bit less than $45 billion budget. And I guess, while I've got the floor here, I do want to point out one thing. Again, I was talking about this issue of how we think families budget and how we think that that's the way to do things. I do in particular want to call people's attention to the education area, because that's where this is almost the most different. You can see that the target that people will talk about for education is a $300 million increase, but the actual increase from the last biennium to this biennium that we are proposing is $1.14 billion, a 7% increase. And that's because in the last biennium, we wrote in legislation that anticipates additional spending in the education area in this biennium. So we have a well over $1 billion increase in education spending, about a 7% increase.
Mr. Chairman, on that same area, the early education part of it, part of E12, what's your number? And is that, between the House and the Senate, is that dedicated toward the programs as opposed to early kindergarten? Can you talk about that?
I'll let the speaker take that.
And we don't want to get into the specifics today about what will be in these bills. We really want to respect the open and transparent process of the conference committees and allowing the public to come in and participate in those as well, and that's been going on for the last week. That will continue now and probably will wrap up on Monday. The conference committee is going to make those final decisions. And there obviously were a few differences that needed to be worked out between the House and the Senate bill, and that has not happened yet. But our priority, we had a press conference earlier this week. Our priority has been on a scholarship approach. We actually are prioritizing early education and making sure that the early education that we invest in is actually closing the achievement gap. It's accomplishing the goal that we want. And the best way to do that overwhelmingly with data from other states has been a scholarship targeted approach to put the dollars with the kids that need it the most and get the parents involved in the process and offer them the ability to make some decisions about where their kids go. That might be in a public school, might be in a private preschool situation.
I understand what you're saying in terms of respecting the conference committee process. I do.
Bills aren't wrapped yet, so I don't have an answer for you.
But have you got an idea roughly of what the number will be in terms of increase for the early education?
The conference committees are working that out. We do not have that finalized yet. And we want to let the chairs work that out, and we have been. The Senator and I anticipate that over the next few days, we're going to probably be called in to referee a few disagreements, but they've actually been doing really good work, and I think we have similar priorities, and I think if we keep those in mind and really think about the problems we're trying to solve and what solutions would be best to solve those problems, they're going to come to agreement on their own, and we're seeing that happening.
How much of that will be in public, the final language and numbers of the conferees?
All of it. They're going to bring it all to the conference committee. You'll see it all by Monday. Yep.
By Monday, so that means conference committee's working this weekend?
On Monday.
In public?
Yeah.
On Monday.
Or on Monday?
They'll be working today. We think
Okay.
they may be working over the weekend, and some of them may be a little further along than others. They've put hours and hours in conference committees all week long, so they've been working diligently to get to this. The Senator and I just kind of, because we didn't have the target set a week ago, we pulled them aside, I think, at the beginning of the week and said, we're just going to instruct you to try to work towards the middle point as a goal. And they've been talking about those priorities and thinking about that for some time. We now have given them, as of I think last night, gave them, or yesterday gave them their real targets, which were similar to that halfway point. And we expect that they'll be wrapping up their conference committees by Monday.
And given, Mr. Speaker, that you have asked the governor to meet a Thursday, was it Thursday? Yeah, Thursday deadline for three-way targets. When he wants conference committee reports finished and signed, I understand the logistics of that.
I think we've agreed that the logistics of it don't mean that they're actually going to sign the conference committee reports, but they're going to adopt.
Waiting for signature by what day so that the governor has enough time?
They're going to adopt conference committee amendments by Monday that will put the conference committee report in its final form that we have agreed on, and they'll sit that way so that the governor can see final language. And that's when we want to engage the governor in the process and come up with joint targets by just before the end of next week.
Will we be taking conference reports to the floor and to the governor for vetoes?
That's not our plan. Now, I can't guarantee that, if the governor does not engage with us in setting joint targets, or if we don't make progress, I can't say that won't happen eventually. But our plan is really to engage the governor. Remember that we wanted the governor to be engaged this week in setting joint targets between the three of us. We hoped today that we'd be having a press conference with the governor saying these are the joint targets we've all agreed to, and then instructing, the governor instructing his commissioners and us instructing our chairs to go out and work out those differences. And of course, we knew we'd have to come in and referee some disagreements, but we had hoped we'd be at that point today. We're not there. We adapted to the governor's, governor kind of changed his mind on what he wanted to see, and that's okay. We adapted to that. We're going to work with the governor. We're going to do it in a positive way, and we're going to come up with a result that represents, I think, all of our priorities and puts a balanced budget in place, and we're going to do it on time.
You don't want to send veto bait, but you won't rule it out, is that?
We don't want to. We don't want to. We want to get the governor engaged in the process. We want to respect that, and we know the governor may not agree with everything we're doing. We're gonna convince him that our ideas are good, but we may not win on everything, and we understand that. That's okay. That's part of negotiations, and we're willing to compromise a little bit if we need to, and we want to work with the governor in a positive way over the next week and get to agreement on joint targets. So that there's plenty of time for.
I just wanted to add something there. Keep in mind that the conference committees have been meeting for a while, And they have all asked the commissioners if they can engage, if the commissioners are able to negotiate on the governor's behalf. And in most cases, I think the answer has been no. So this isn't something, I mean, it's not, we're looking at this from Monday to Thursday, but this has been a process. We took his numbers, his request, his earlier letter seriously, that he wanted to have three-way targets by the 28th. And so we tried to meet that end. And so the governor's got these numbers. We can start engaging with him and negotiating with him as soon as he's ready to go. And we're doing everything we can to meet his requirements.
On directions to the conferees, the House has significantly more policy in their budget bills than the Senate does. What's your direction to your chairs on that?
You know, we're letting them work out the differences. We know there will be policy in the bills. There has been policy in every budget bill ever in the history of the world. And I don't think I'm overstating that even. Even when Democrats controlled all of state government, there was policy in every single one of the budget bills. So the governor's request on that, well, it's a smart negotiating tactic to draw a line and create unrealistic expectations. I respect the governor for that. It's completely unrealistic, and it's not even possible.
I'm asking about
Sure.
you versus
They're going to work out the
Senator
differences,
Gazelka.
and there
I mean,
will be
there's-
some amount of policy. Go ahead,
In
Senator.
terms of amounts, there's
Yeah,
big and little.
we have given a lot of authority to each of our chairs. Like the speaker said, we weigh in occasionally, but most of the work is being done between the two chairs and the committees that are involved there. And so that's why I showed that we've come together in the advancing the Minnesota way. I mean, that's what the House and Senate run by Republicans looks like, that this is our bill. And then working with the governor, you know, we want that engagement. We have to have that engagement. We've already talked about a few bills and some of the thorny issues and how do we get through them. And like the majority leader of the House said, there are times that their commissioners have not engaged, and we're calling them out on that because we have to get them engaged. We need to know what authority they have, and if they don't, then we're going to go to somebody else. But the process has started. The Minnesota two-step has begun, and now we need to get to that next stage by Thursday.
Say a little bit more about what this Thursday deadline signifies. If there are continued disagreements between the governor and the legislature on Thursday, do the legislature's bills go forward with the anticipation of veto at that point, or does something else happen?
Well, the speaker and I will discuss where we think we are in the process. You know, it is our hope that the governor will engage at that level. I believe the opportunity is there. I believe he wants to. I believe the Senate wants to. I believe the House wants to. Sometimes it's not easy in this place, but I will say that I think that is out there as an opportunity. We've made that extra step that he asked us to make just a week ago. We thought we were on a different path. We've adapted. Now we're asking him to adapt to that next step that he's put out there. And so if we can do that, the end process is much better. It's not easy, but it's much better.
Several times you referred to this as a three-way negotiation. The governor said that once you got to this point, it would be a two-way negotiation. At the leadership level, to what degree does this truly remain a three-way negotiation?
Well, even go back to when the Democrats had the House, Senate, Governor. Even that was three-way. The Senate is different from the House. We have different ideas about how to get to different places. We're similar, but we're not the same, and that's okay. The Speaker and I are different, but we've united, we're together, and we're gonna figure it out. But there are times that we have a different perspective than they do, and certainly the governor does from us. And that's okay. That's why we have divided government.
You say you're going to impress Meyer and Franz on some of these, on some of the savings numbers. Does that mean you think that his numbers are political rather than coming from the civil service
We're not.
staff?
We're positioning where we think we should be. If Republicans had House, Senate, Governor, how much tax relief could we give? Where could we save money? The governor has a different direction. That's okay. We're going to make our case that we want to go the direction we want to go. He's going to be on the opposite side of that. I'd rather not talk about funny numbers. We think our budgets are good. I could poke at his, he'll poke at ours, but I think they're good.
And I think we respect Myron in the department that he runs. We appreciate the tough work that he has. But as I reminded the governor earlier this week, we are a separate branch of government. And while we use fiscal notes as advisory to the legislature, we are not bound by them. They are to instruct us on what a department feels it would cost. But very often, the legislative auditor's numbers and the numbers that come from M&B are different. And we're going to encourage the administration sometimes to push the envelope a little bit. And I think just as there has been policy in every bill in the history of the world, every budget bill in the history of the world, I think there's always been an argument about whether fiscal notes are accurate or not. And you know what? We have to work that out at the leadership level. And I remember 2 years ago there were differences about whether numbers were accurate or not. And we just simply worked that out. We discussed it. We brought in people who could kind of inform us on both sides of the issue, and then we made a decision. And we came together at the end, and that's what we expect we'll do again this year.
Chairman Knoblach, can you clarify your $44.8 billion figure? Does that include or exclude the transportation money?
It does not include the $372 million of transportation, because that's going to be and is in a separate dedicated fund that's not general fund money underneath the bills that are being put together.
But if it's money that you guys are committing to it, it's above 45, because it's...
Yeah, if you counted that, it's about 45.
And then if you add in the taxes, which is 1.8, you're at 46.
Well, I mean, there's basically,
1.1, I'm
well,
sorry.
there's basically about $46 billion available to spend or give back in taxes. And that's, the governor, that's, he's got $46 billion available too. It's just that he's spending almost all of it.
At the end of the day, our numbers are the same because we have the same resources available.
Right.
Is Monday a hard and fast deadline, or is that just a hope?
No, it's a deadline.
Oh, it's a deadline.
To do this Monday?
Yes.
Okay.
And they've been working on it all week, and they're meeting today. I expect some of them are going to be meeting this weekend.
And as leaders, how many things have you folks told conference committee chairs you have to have in or you cannot have in?
They're sometimes like you, they don't always listen to us. So they're working out the differences, and we want to respect that. And we know that, the senator, I mean, and there haven't been a lot of times, and we don't suspect there will be. They're gonna work out the differences. And the things they're coming to us on are little things. They're not big issues. So they're making good progress, I think, both in private conversations and in public conference committees, and we expect that there shouldn't be any problem with all of them having a conference committee bill in its final format in conference committee on Monday.
Speaking of progress, on Monday, you had said on Real ID, I actually think we're there on that one. I don't see where we disagree anymore, and that you hoped that you would see a final bill yet this week. Today's Friday, that hasn't happened, and I don't think the conference committee has.
Probably not going to see one, am I?
Yeah, are there problems in
I'll see
Real
if it's
ID?
with the bonding bill. I'm not sure. That was going to happen this week too, remember?
Yes.
Just like I said,
I do remember.
sometimes I'm hopeful and they don't always happen exactly the way that I want. I actually have not spoken to the governor about Real ID and what he would like to see. I think he's been pretty public saying that he will sign whatever we get to his desk, and I think the conferees are still working. I haven't followed up on it in the last couple of days, but we're hopeful we can get that done
Is that
soon.
an indication of a problem with this issue, that it's not done? You had hoped it would be done early in the session.
Not
You had said
necessarily,
January and
or at
it
least
got-
not that I'm aware of. Not necessarily. I don't know if you want to add into that.
No, it's, we'll get there. We'll get a Real ID bill. It's there's different issues that are floating around that one, but I think the speaker's right. We'll get there. The conference committee's got to work it out. But everyone knows we have to have one this session, so it'll happen.
What about preemption, now that it's passed the Senate? Is that going to show up somewhere in the budget, or is that going to be something standalone?
Well, we'll decide. We're moving it forward. The governor has expressed that he's not interested, but we think it's an important issue for Minnesota, so we'll keep working on uniform labor standards.
Mr. Speaker, you mentioned just little things that still to be worked out, and either one of you, fully funding the third branch of government, judiciary, as mentioned before. The Chief Justice has made a big deal of that. You're not giving the conferees direction on that $51 million?
Well, I'll just speak for myself. The governor spoke to both myself and the speaker and said this is, he listened, he thought it was really important. I had Justice Gilday come into my office. I think they make a compelling case. We're going to work with the chairs to figure out what they're going to do, and that's the part we're trying to let the chairs work through this issue. But I think there is a compelling case there, at least for an increase.
Mr. Speaker, you agree? Compelling case, going to get their money?
I think we respect the judicial branch and we want to give them what we can. Unfortunately, we have to make the decision across the entire budget, and if we gave every single department and every single budget line item, every dollar they request.
It's a branch of government.
I understand that, but I'm talking about the whole budget right now. If we gave everybody everything they requested, we'd have a $5 billion deficit. I mean, it just, the requests are so numerous, but that's what really makes the job of legislators and specifically committee chairs and conference committee members difficult. We have to prioritize, and setting these targets isn't always easy because sometimes at the leadership level, when we set these targets, we have to decide, okay, there may not be enough money in this target to fund completely this, but we have to weigh that against all of the other areas of the budget. And if you see in our budget, the increase in K-12 education is literally almost identical to the amount of tax relief that we're giving. And we're taking general fund, a big chunk of general fund dollars and moving that into a road and bridge fund. And that really ought to say a lot about where our priorities are.
With respect to Real ID, I think I remember a statement a couple months ago that there was a desire to get that done before we got into the heart of the budgeting process. Well, now we're there. Is it going to be difficult to get Real ID done?
Is your question now, do I wish it would have gotten done before we got to this point? Yes. My statement back then was true. And we're still working on it, and I hope to make real progress.
Confusion and the
Not necessarily. One thing that has never surprised me is how things in the legislature can be more complicated than you think they're going to be, and they can take more time than you think they're going to. Very rarely does something happen easier and quicker than you think it's going to when we're talking about the legislative process. And probably the founders did that by design. This probably isn't supposed to be easy, and we're supposed to compromise, we're supposed to come together, and we're supposed to solve these problems in the best way that really help out Minnesotans. And that's what we're trying to do.
Why are you not worried? Minnesotans are worried about getting on.
Rachel, when's the last time you saw me worried?
I won't say it publicly.
Okay.
We have faith in the process.
We do. And we feel like you probably see us a little more relaxed because we did allow 5 weeks here after our break when we had our bills passed off of the House and Senate floor to get this work done in a more open and transparent way. Have we had a little setback because the governor decided he wanted us to come to agreement first before he came to the table? Yes. Would we have liked that to have been differently? Yes. But we have adapted, and we respect the governor. We understand he has an important position and an important job in this, and he has priorities that may be slightly different than ours. But at the end of the day, we're all going to come together, and we're going to put together a budget on time that respects and represents all of our priorities.
The Democrats are saying that the E-12 spending proposal from the House seems like a deficit year spending proposal rather than a surplus year spending.
And this target is a 7% increase in K-12 spending. I know everyone, and I'll go back to the earlier question about if we funded every request that the legislature had, we'd have a $5 billion deficit. I don't know if that number's exactly right, but it's maybe more than that. I mean, the problem is, and we understand that schools do incredibly tough work, and they do it sometimes with scarce resources, but this is a 7% increase in K-12 funding, and we think it's a priority. That's why for us, it's exactly the same as or virtually exactly the same as our tax cut number.
Last comment, I want to answer that, and then we got to go. But because everybody's talking about a surplus, but keep in mind the healthcare system was collapsing, and we had to bail that out. That was $842 million that we had to spend. We haven't done a roads and bridges bill since 2008. That's going to be somewhere around $400 million. And I've been told that there's a pension problem, that they're in trouble. So if you add up those numbers, there's serious things that we are tackling and we are getting done, but we're still going to provide tax relief with that. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.